Hazel, I remember at one point you were manager of the Eastside PLaza and organizing the women there in a way that they had never been organized before.
Right. I wasn't actually the manager. We had always, the government had always paid, we had got funds from the government to pay a manager. But let's start from the beginning. The Eastside PLaza was closed because whoever was managing it before had not paid the electricity bill, which was very high. And I thought first my interest was in how could I help with the issue of the bill. But to get the electricity back on, Brinsley Samru, who was then the minister responsible for thing, asked me if I would come in and head up a board to reopen the Eastside PLaza. Can you imagine a property like that? It's the old market.
Yes.
Sitting in Charlotte Street.
Closed.
Well, at least some of the women would come in in the darkness because there was no electricity. So I went, because I knew about the T&Deck people and all that, and what was required. Actually, the person who had installed the electricity system there had put in an industrial system that was outside of the reach of the people who were managing. So we could fix that, open the place back. And of course, now you have 50 women on your hands. So I would start meeting with them to inquire what do they need, how we could work together to improve the infrastructure of the place to get people in there in the first place, because there's no point them being happy inside and people not coming in
to buy.
So we worked, and those were really amazing women. We worked with them to establish and bring Eastside PLaza to what it is now, because it is the women who are inside of there and the leadership that was provided that made it into what it is today. One of the projects, we also had some other interests, of course. I'm not just there being there for being good. Remember, we had been running this school book exchange, and Gertrude had been doing that. So we got a place for Gertrude inside of there.
Yes,
that's right. Gertrude Phillip, who's since passed. To run the school book exchange out of Eastside PLaza. That was one way of getting people inside of there, because at that time, school books were very expensive. The price controls were not being implemented. And if we could offer an alternative to women, I mean, we actually bought old school books, ironed them out where the things had doggies, fixed them at a price that people could afford. And that is how the used school book exchange business, and it soon blossomed into a humongous business. Working women were also able to come in and run their used clothing shop inside of there, because the rents for downtown were pretty reasonable and affordable for small business. But the other project that we ran inside of there, that is the network I'm talking about now, was a project for women who were HIV positive. Because we found that there were women who were HIV positive who had skills. Mostly they had been working in factories and they could sew. So we went out and raised some money to buy some sewing equipment and materials for those women to start their own school shirt business. We would go out, and some of them would go out to the schools and get the school orders, and then we would make fund the material for them to make the school shirts, and when the school shirts were sold, they would refund the network the money that we put out. And for me, that was one of the best things projects that I have worked on, to see how these women, with the support of their families, could re-establish their livelihoods once there was a facilitating environment that was a safe place for them to work out of, the equipment that they required, and the support whenever it came up. Because we were in a situation, for example, where this dependency syndrome is very terrible in Trinidad. We started, and Sheila Marcel was responsible for the funds at that time, getting a call on Friday afternoon, people ask, where's the money? Well, there's no money. The shirts have to be made and sold, and then, because if you give them the impression that you could come on Friday and be paid, and it doesn't matter whether the shirts are made or sold, that's not going to last very long, all right? I think it didn't take long for them to understand. Friday's coming, we need to have so many shirts made and sold and money collected so that we can get paid. That is how, but you don't see a lot of that approach to projects where you want to help people to become self-reliant. And those women we have seen go on to run and establish their own business, because there are some things that you learn about how business runs besides just sewing the shirts.
That the Eastside Plaza was remarkable. For me, one of those remarkable pieces of work that I've seen the network involved in and yourself lead.